It started out like any other day for John. He woke up in his small townhouse, stretched, and made his way to the bathroom. He turned on the shower, waiting for the water to heat up. But as he stepped into the shower, he realized something was wrong. The water was ice cold. He quickly turned off the faucet and stepped out, shivering. John walked into his living room and turned on the television, hoping to catch the morning news. But all he saw was static. He changed the channel, but it was the same on every station. He thought it was strange, but he didn't dwell on it for too long. He got dressed and headed outside, planning to grab a cup of coffee at the local diner. But as he stepped out onto the street, he froze in his tracks. The town was gone. The buildings, the people, everything. It was as if the entire town had vanished into thin air. John's heart started racing, and he began to panic. He walked down the empty street calling out for anyone who might be around, but there was no response. It was as if he was the last person on Earth. He stumbled upon the one remaining structure in the town, a gas station on the outskirts. He walked inside, hoping to find some answers. The attendant, a middle-aged man with a kind face, greeted him warmly. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you?" John tried to explain his situation, but the attendant didn't seem to understand. He just offered him a cup of coffee and a donut, which John accepted gratefully. They sat in silence for a while, until John worked up the courage to ask the attendant about the disappearance of the town. The attendant smiled and said, "Don't worry, sir. Everything will be fine. You're just in a time loop." John was taken aback. A time loop? What did that even mean? The attendant explained that they were reliving the same day over and over again, and that John was stuck in the loop with him. The only way out was to figure out what was causing the loop and put a stop to it. John was skeptical and decided to go back home and sleep it off. He woke up the next day and the town was still gone. Only the gas station and the attendant remained. He spent the next few days questioning the attendant and trying to find a way out of the time loop, but realized he couldn't even leave the gas station now. Every time he left the gas station, he found himself back there again. After a while, John began to notice that the attendant never ate and was never trying to find a way out. "Why aren't you trying to escape?" John asked the attendant. "I don't wish to leave, John. I am here to observe," the attendant said. John was confused, and as they continued the conversation, the attendant revealed his true identity. He wasn't human. He was an alien studying human behavior, and the town was just a test subject. The time loop was a way to observe how humans reacted to stress and isolation. John was horrified. He had been stuck in a town with an alien for days, and he had no idea. He demanded to be let go, but the attendant just smiled and said, "I'm afraid I can't do that, sir. You signed a waiver when you entered the town." John searched his memory but couldn't recall signing anything. He tried to leave the gas station again, but the door was locked. He was trapped, and there was nothing he could do about it. Days turned into weeks, and John began to lose track of time. He tried to stay sane by keeping a journal and exercising, but he was starting to lose hope. The alien attendant continued to observe him, taking notes and asking him questions about his emotional and mental state. John began to feel like a lab rat, a mere subject in an experiment. As the days went by, John started to notice strange things happening around him. Objects would move on their own, and he would hear whispers in the dark. He tried to ignore them, but they only got worse. One night, John woke up to find the attendant standing over him, staring intently. He tried to push him away, but the attendant was too strong. John's heart raced as he realized he was in danger. The attendant leaned in close and whispered, "You're doing very well, John. Your fear and anxiety levels are off the charts. You're going to be a great addition to our database." John tried to fight back, but he was no match for the alien's strength. He closed his eyes, waiting for the worst to happen. That's when he woke up and realized he was still in the gas station. He sat up, confused and disoriented. He noticed the attendant out of the corner of his eye and turned to him, who was still smiling serenely. "Why are you doing this?" John asked, his voice shaking. The attendant's smile faded. "We're just studying human behavior, John. We're trying to understand how you cope with stress and isolation. You're a valuable subject." John felt a surge of anger. He had been trapped in this town for what felt like an eternity, and all the while he had been just a lab rat to these aliens. As he walked around the gas station, he noticed a small room in the back that he had never seen before. He approached it cautiously, wondering if this was his chance to escape. He opened the door, and inside he found a computer. It was hooked up to a network, and he realized that he could use it to contact the outside world. He quickly typed out an email to his wife Angela, explaining his situation and begging for help. He hit send, and then waited anxiously for a reply. He didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, he received a response from his wife. She was worried sick, but she had a plan. She had contacted a team of experts who specialized in extraterrestrial contact. They were on their way to the town, and they would be there soon to rescue him. John felt a surge of hope. He wasn't alone anymore. He had help, and he knew that he could finally escape this nightmare. He turned to the attendant, who was still watching him with that same serene smile. "You're not going to win," John said, his voice shaking with anger. "You can study me all you want, but I'm not going to break. I'm stronger than you think." The attendant's smile faded, replaced by a look of concern. "We never intended to harm you, John. We just wanted to understand you. Please don't be angry." But John didn't listen. He was determined to escape, no matter what. He waited anxiously for the team of experts to arrive, and when they did, they brought with them all the necessary equipment to rescue John. They managed to break the time loop and transport him back to his own world. As he emerged back into his own reality, he saw Angela waiting for him. She rushed forward, embracing him tightly. He felt a wave of relief wash over him. That's when John noticed his wife's grip was getting tighter and stronger. "Honey, I'm happy to see you, but you're hurting me," John said. The pain was too much for John. He tried to escape her grasp, but it felt like he was getting torn in half. "Don't worry, it's just another experiment, John," Angela said. John realized he was still trapped and passed out from all the pain he was in. When John awoke, he was back in the gas station. "That was exciting," the attendant said with a sinister grin on his face. "The moment you realized you were still trapped, just magnificent. So much data was collected. Truly a work of art, John. You should be proud." John just stared at the attendant with empty eyes. He felt like everything was pointless. After that day, John lost all hope of escaping. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. John lost track of time as he lived the same day over and over again. He tried to keep his sanity by doing different things every day, but it was a struggle. The alien attendant continued to observe him, taking notes and studying his behavior. As the months turned into years, John began to lose hope. He knew that he would never escape this time loop, and that he was doomed to live the same day for eternity. He tried to end his life multiple times, but he always woke back up the next morning. One day, after what felt like an eternity, John woke up to find that the gas station was gone. He was standing in the middle of an empty field, surrounded by nothing but grass and trees. He looked around, trying to make sense of what was happening. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. "Congratulations, John. You did it." John turned around to see the alien attendant standing there holding a clipboard. "What do you mean?" John asked, confused. The attendant smiled. "You've proven yourself to be a very interesting subject, John. Your ability to adapt and cope with stress is remarkable. We've learned a lot from you." John felt a surge of anger. "You've been using me this whole time," he shouted. "Is this hell? Have I been dead this entire time? What did I do to deserve this?" The attendant nodded. "I figured you would ask these questions a long time ago, John. That's what makes you so interesting. You are a part of something bigger than all of that, John. You've helped us understand human behavior in a way that we never could have before." John took a step forward, his fists clenched. "I want to go home," he said. The attendant shook his head. "I'm afraid that's not possible, John. You're too valuable to us, but don't worry. You'll be well taken care of." John felt a wave of hopelessness wash over him. He realized that he was still trapped, even though the gas station was gone. He was still in the time loop, and there was no way out. He turned around, realizing it was pointless to argue, and started walking, hoping that he could find some way to escape. But he knew deep down that he was doomed to live the same day over and over again, for eternity.